She didn't whisper it. She said it clearly. Loud enough for everyone at the dinner table to hear. That girl will never sit at our table. Forks froze midair. Conversations died instantly. I stood there with my tray, heat rushing to my face, pretending I hadn't just been erased in front of 20 people. She was my step-grandmother, polished smile, diamonds flashing under the chandelier, the kind of woman who decided worth by last names and bank balances. I was the extra. My mom's daughter from before the money. Before the mansion. Before the family learned how to pretend kindness. Go eat in the kitchen, she added lightly, like she was suggesting a seating arrangement, not a humiliation. I turned to leave. That's when the doors at the end of the dining hall slammed open. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. Everyone stood. My billionaire grandfather walked in, no entourage, no smile, eyes sharp and assessing like he already knew something was wrong. He looked at the table. Then at me. Then back at her. "What did I just hear?" he asked calmly. The woman beside the head seat laughed nervously. "Oh, nothing, darling. Just family talk." He didn't sit. He placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. "No," he said quietly. That didn't sound like nothing. And in that moment, every single person in that room realized. She had just spoken. At the worst possible time. No one moved. My grandfather didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room bent toward him the way it always did, instinctively. "I asked a question," he said, eyes still on her. "Answer it." She smiled too fast. "I was just saying that children should sit where they're comfortable." He glanced at the empty chair beside him, the one meant for family. "Comfortable," he repeated. Then he looked at me again. "Is that what you felt just now?" My throat tightened, but I nodded once. "Honest?" "No, sir." A murmur rippled down the table. My step-grandmother's diamonds caught the light as she stiffened. He straightened. "In this house, no one gets sent away from the table." She tried to interrupt. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," he said, cutting her off. "I understand that you spoke for me without permission." He turned to the head seat, his seat, and pulled it back. Then he did something no one expected. He moved it. Sat it beside the empty chair. "Sit," he said, to me. I hesitated. The whole room watched. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. "Now," he added gently. I sat. He took the chair next to mine and faced the table. "Dinner can continue," he said. "And from this moment on, everyone will remember who belongs." Across from us, her smile cracked. And I realized this wasn't about a seat. It was about power. And who had just lost it? No one touched their food. They watched him instead. My grandfather folded his napkin, slow and deliberate, like he was setting the pace for something larger than dinner. "I built this family on one rule," he said calmly. "No one eats here unless everyone is welcome." He looked around the table, uncles, cousins, business partners who suddenly remembered they had manners. "When I met your grandmother," he continued, nodding toward my mom, "she had nothing but integrity. And integrity doesn't get inherited by marriage. It gets proven." My step-grandmother's jaw tightened. "I was only trying to protect the family image," she said. He tilted his head. "The image you care about isn't this family. It's yourself." A few people shifted in their seats. He turned to me. "Do you know why this table is long?" he asked. I shook my head. "So no one can pretend they didn't see who was pushed away." He placed his hand over mine, steady, warm. "Anyone who decides who belongs here without me," he said, eyes returning to her, "is welcome to leave." The silence was no longer awkward. It was decisive. My step-grandmother pushed her chair back halfway, then stopped. She looked around, realizing no one was following her. Dinner resumed, but something had changed. I wasn't just sitting at the table. I was being recognized. And she was learning, in real time, that power borrowed from someone else disappears the moment it's challenged. She didn't leave. That was her mistake. She stayed seated, posture stiff, smile frozen in place, convinced that if she waited long enough the moment would pass and things would return to normal. They didn't. My grandfather lifted his glass, but not for a toast. "I want something clarified," he said. "This table represents my legacy. Anyone who disrespects it disrespects me." He turned to the head of the table, where she'd been sitting for years, thinking it was permanent. "You," he said evenly, "will not host dinners in this house again." A sharp inhale. Someone dropped a fork. She laughed nervously. "That's unnecessary." He didn't react. "You will not decide seating," he continued. "You will not speak for this family. And you will not ever single out a child again." Child. The word landed with weight. He looked at me. "You will sit here whenever you wish. With anyone you choose." Her face flushed. "You're embarrassing me." He met her eyes. "No. You embarrassed yourself." That's when I saw it, panic. Not anger. Not pride. Fear. Because for the first time, she understood something she'd never considered. The power she wore like jewelry was never hers to begin with. And it had just been taken back. In front of everyone. The air changed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But decisively. People began eating again, careful at first, like the rules of gravity had been rewritten and no one wanted to test them too hard. Conversations restarted in low tones, eyes flicking toward my grandfather, then to me. Across the table, my step-grandmother sat perfectly still. She didn't touch her food. My grandfather leaned back and spoke to the room, not to her. "Legacy isn't money," he said. "Money just makes the truth louder. Legacy is how people behave when they think I'm not watching." A few heads lowered. He turned to my uncle. "You're hosting the charity gala next month," he said. "She won't be involved." My aunt blinked. Nodded. "Of course." Another quiet removal. Another door closing without a sound. I felt my shoulders relax for the first time that evening. The chair no longer felt borrowed. My step-grandmother finally spoke, voice tight. "You're turning everyone against me." My grandfather didn't look at her. "No," he said. "I'm turning everyone toward decency." Then he looked at me and smiled, not proud, not performative, just steady. "Eat," he said softly. "You're home." And I realized the truth she was learning too late. When power is real, it doesn't shout. It reassigns. And once reassigned, it doesn't come back. She waited until dessert. Until plates were cleared and people felt safe again. Then she leaned toward me with a smile so practiced it looked painted on. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded," she said softly. "You know how words can slip." I met her eyes. "I do," I replied. "They usually slip when they're true." Her smile faltered. My grandfather set his fork down, not hard, just enough to be heard. "An apology," he said, still facing forward, "isn't a strategy. It's an acknowledgement." She turned to him quickly. "I am acknowledging." "You're minimizing," he cut in. "Because you believe timing can undo intent." He finally looked at her. "It can't." The table went quiet again, not shocked this time, but resolved. He stood and placed his napkin neatly on the table. "This family doesn't correct children in private and humiliate them in public," he said. "We do the opposite." He looked at me. "Would you like to say anything?" I shook my head. I didn't need to. Because dignity doesn't require speeches. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, there was nothing left to spin. And as my grandfather offered me his arm and led me from the table, I understood the real lesson of the night. Some doors don't slam. They simply close. Quietly. Permanently. and without asking permission. The days after that dinner felt different. Not tense. Not dramatic. Intentional. Invitations came with my name already included. Seats were saved, without discussion. People asked my opinion and waited for the answer. My step-grandmother became careful. She smiled less. Spoke slower. Tested boundaries the way someone tests ice after it cracks once. One afternoon, I found my grandfather in the study, sorting old photos. "She's upset," he said without looking up. "I know," I replied. He nodded. Being upset isn't the same as being wrong. He showed me a picture, him younger, standing beside my mother. Both laughing, unaware of what the future would complicate. "This house remembers who stood here first," he said. "It always does." That evening, my step-grandmother packed a small bag. Not leaving forever. Just repositioned. She moved to the guest wing. No announcement. No explanation. The family understood. Power didn't shout its victory. It rearranged space. And I realized something quietly profound. I wasn't being defended anymore. I was being anchored. Because once someone with real authority names you as belonging, no one else gets to question it. One chapter remained. Not about her. About what he would say. When everyone was listening one last time. The next family gathering was smaller. Intentional. My grandfather waited until everyone was seated before he spoke. "I want to make something permanent," he said. He didn't look at my step-grandmother. He looked at the table. "This seat," he continued, resting his hand on the chair beside his, "is reserved. Always. No explanations. No conditions. For my granddaughter," he said. "By right." No one objected. Because by then, everyone understood the cost of doing so. He turned to me, eyes warm. "You never had to earn a place here. You were born with it." I felt my throat tighten. Across the room, my step-grandmother lowered her gaze. Not defeated, aware. That was the real change. Dinner continued. Laughter returned. Life went on. But something had been rewritten. Years later, people would still talk about the night someone said, "That girl will never sit at our table." They'd remember how the doors slammed. How the room stilled. How a man with real power reclaimed it without raising his voice. But what mattered most wasn't the confrontation. It was the certainty that followed. Some seats aren't given by favor. They're claimed by truth. And once claimed, they can never be taken again.